Across the Milky Way, there was one law every civilization obeyed. Never provoke the supreme galactic dominion. For over 20,000 years, the dominion had ruled through overwhelming force. Entire star systems paid tribute. Advanced civilizations bowed without resistance. Those who refused simply vanished, leaving behind silent worlds drifting through space. To the dominion, fear was the strongest currency. Then they discovered Earth. At first, humanity seemed insignificant. A young species. One homeworld. A modest interstellar fleet. No ancient empire. No mythical weapons. No reputation worth mentioning. The Galactic Council laughed when humanity requested equal membership. Their ambassadors were treated like children wandering into a room meant for adults. Earth accepted every insult without retaliation. They traded peacefully, helped struggling colonies, shared medical technology after devastating plagues, rescued civilian ships trapped in unstable hyperspace storms. Many smaller civilizations began to admire humanity's compassion. The Dominion saw something completely different. Influence. And influence was dangerous. Supreme Commander Varkon stood before the Dominion Senate, his armored figure towering over every delegate. Humanity spreads loyalty faster than fear, he declared. If we allow this to continue, the galaxy will stop fearing us. The chamber erupted in agreement. The decision was immediate. Destroy humanity before humanity became impossible to control. Days later, every communication beacon in known space broadcast the same message. This is the Supreme Galactic Dominion. Humanity is hereby declared an enemy of galactic stability. Earth has 72 standard hours to surrender completely. Disband all military forces. Transfer all scientific databases. Accept permanent Dominion occupation. Failure to comply will result in total planetary extinction. Across thousands of worlds, billions watched the announcement. Some pitted humanity. Others celebrated. Many believed Earth would surrender within hours. Nobody challenged the Dominion. Nobody survived doing so. Inside Earth's United Defense Council, however, the atmosphere was strangely calm. No panic. No shouting. Only silence. President Amelia Hayes slowly placed the Dominion's ultimatum onto the conference table. So, she said quietly, they've finally made their move. Around her sat military commanders, scientists, intelligence directors, and admirals whose expressions revealed surprisingly little concern. General Marcus Kane folded his hands. Our evacuation protocols are ready. Good. Our civilian shelters? Already activated. Our allies? They've offered humanitarian support, but none are willing to fight the Dominion. No one seemed surprised. Admiral Elena Ross looked toward the enormous holographic star map floating above the room. They believe they've studied us. The president nodded. They've studied exactly what we wanted them to see. The room became completely silent. Hidden beneath Earth's oceans. Buried inside the moon. Camouflaged within distant asteroid belts. Facilities that had remained classified for generations quietly awakened. Massive reactors began producing impossible amounts of energy. Shipyards sealed for over a century unlocked ancient blast doors. Deep beneath Antarctica, colossal machines larger than entire cities powered on for the first time in decades. Artificial intelligences that had never been mentioned in public records opened their eyes. Across dozens of secret locations, one identical message appeared. Project Aegis, authorization confirmed. Meanwhile, far beyond known space, inside a region officially marked on every galactic map as permanently lifeless, something enormous detected Earth's encrypted signal. Red lights illuminated across a vessel nearly the size of a small moon. Then another, and another. Thousands of impossible warships slowly emerged from the darkness where no civilization believed anything could survive. Their engines ignited one after another like stars awakening. Back on Earth, President Hayes watched the countdown. 71 hours remained. She smiled, not with confidence, but with certainty. They wanted humanity to surrender, she whispered. They've just declared war on the only species that prepared for this day centuries ago. The countdown continued. 68 hours remained. Across the galaxy, news channels repeated the Dominion's ultimatum every hour. Analysts predicted Earth's surrender. Military experts debated how long humanity could survive against the greatest empire ever assembled. The answer was almost unanimous. Less than a day. On dozens of neutral worlds, people gathered in public squares to watch the inevitable. Some pitted humanity's fate. Others celebrated, believing another rival would disappear. The Supreme Galactic Dominion had never lost a war. Not once. Inside the Dominion's capital, Supreme Commander Varkon stood before a massive holographic map of human space. Thousands of red markers represented Dominion battle groups advancing toward the Sol system. Our armada? Varkon asked. An officer bowed. 7,000 capital ships. 31,000 cruisers. Over 200,000 escorts. Total personnel, 112 million. Varkon smiled. Excessive. The Senate wanted to make an example of Earth. Good, Varkon replied. When this ends, no civilization will ever question Dominion authority again. The Senate erupted in applause. Light years away, Earth's leaders watched those same fleet movements in silence. President Amelia Hayes entered the underground command center beneath Geneva. General Marcus Kane pointed toward the display. They're exactly where our projections predicted. No changes. None. Admiral Elena Ross crossed her arms. They still believe our visible fleet is all we possess. A faint smile appeared on the president's face. Then Operation Aegis remains invisible. With a simple nod, she authorized the next phase. Thousands of encrypted quantum transmissions left Earth simultaneously. Each message traveled through communication routes no alien civilization had ever discovered. Their destination lay beyond a region known only in classified human records as the Veil. Far beyond the edge of explored space. Silence ruled an endless sea of darkness. One by one, ancient beacons awakened. Blue light spread across structures hidden inside rogue planets. Titan-sized shipyards, concealed within hollow moons, powered to life after centuries of dormancy. Artificial suns ignited. Massive docking bays slowly opened. Inside them waited fleets so immense they dwarfed entire civilizations. Rows upon rows of gleaming white warships stretched farther than sensors could measure. Each vessel carried the same insignia. United Earth Defense Command. An ancient artificial intelligence known only as Athena activated for the first time in 142 years. Its calm voice echoed throughout every command deck. Emergency Directive Aegis confirmed. Threat classification, existential. Fleet status. Thousands of commanders answered simultaneously. Ready. Weapon systems online. Quantum drive stable. Awaiting authorization. Athena processed millions of calculations in less than a second. Then it transmitted a single command. Return home. Back in known space, strange gravitational disturbances began appearing along the galaxy's outer rim. Civilian observatories noticed stars briefly disappearing. Long-range sensors detected impossible energy spikes. Dominion scientists dismissed them as natural phenomena. No known civilization possesses that level of power, one researcher concluded. Varkon ignored the reports. His attention remained fixed on Earth. Continue the advance. Meanwhile, inside Earth's lunar command facility, hundreds of officers watched classified recordings from humanity's forgotten past. The first video showed desperate scientists during Earth's darkest century. If the galaxy ever comes for us, an old engineer said, our first fleet will fail. Another scientist finished the sentence. So we'll build a second fleet. The recording changed. Then a third. Generation after generation had secretly expanded Project Aegis. Entire shipyards were hidden. Colonies erased from public records. Technologies developed in complete secrecy. Every government had protected the same mission. Not for conquest. For survival. General Kane looked toward President Hayes. They believed humanity spent centuries chasing peace. Hayes nodded. We did. She paused before adding quietly, but while we hoped for peace, we prepared for war. At that exact moment, every monitor inside the command center flashed. Athena's message had arrived. The reserve fleet has entered human space. No cheers filled the room. Only silence. Because everyone understood what it meant. The Dominion believed it was marching toward a frightened planet. Instead, it was sailing directly into the greatest military force humanity had ever built, one the galaxy had never imagined could exist. 48 hours remained. The Supreme Galactic Dominion fleet crossed into the outer edge of the Sol system with absolute confidence. Thousands of battleships formed perfect attack formations. Planet-killer cannons charged with enough energy to shatter continents. Carrier vessels released millions of attack drones that darkened the stars like an endless swarm. To Commander Varkon, victory was already guaranteed. Open all channels, he ordered. A massive holographic transmission appeared across human space. People of Earth, Varkon announced, his voice echoing through every receiver, this is your final opportunity. Kneel before the Dominion, and your species may survive as servants. Resist, and your history ends today. For several long seconds, silence. Then Earth's response arrived. Not from the president, not from a general, but from Athena. Its calm, emotionless voice filled every Dominion bridge. Ultimatum received. Response denied. Before Varkon could speak again, every human communication channel went dark. What are they doing? One Dominion officer whispered. Then the impossible happened. Across the empty void surrounding the solar system, space itself began to ripple. At first, Dominion sensors detected one hyperspace signature. Then 10. Then hundreds. Within seconds, thousands. No, a sensor operator gasped. Impossible. The display overflowed with new contacts. Every direction. Every vector. Every blind spot. The Dominion fleet was surrounded. One after another, enormous white warships emerged from shimmering portals. Each vessel was larger than any Dominion flagship. Their armor reflected the light of distant stars like polished silver. Blue energy lines pulsed across their hulls. Massive rail cannons slowly rotated into firing position. Behind them appeared carriers. Then dreadnoughts. Then command fortresses the size of moons. The endless stream continued. 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. The Dominion command bridge fell silent. An officer stared at his screen with trembling hands. We counted humanity's fleet years ago, Varkon shouted. Then where did these ships come from? No one had an answer. Inside Earth's lunar command center, President Hayes watched calmly. General Kane smiled for the first time in days. Operation Aegis has arrived. Admiral Ross spoke quietly. They expected a nation. They've found a civilization that prepared for extinction. Hayes gave a single order. Protect Earth. Nothing more. Human commanders already knew exactly what to do. The first Dominion admiral panicked. Fire everything. Thousands of plasma lances erupted across space. Missiles accelerated toward the human armada. Planet-killer beams flashed through the darkness. The attack was enough to destroy entire star systems. But the human fleet didn't move. Moments before impact, a shimmering blue barrier expanded around every human vessel. The Dominion barrage struck. Space exploded with blinding light. When the energy faded, every human ship remained untouched. Not one shield had collapsed. Not one vessel had been damaged. Shock spread through every Dominion bridge. Our weapons, they did nothing. Athena issued its first combat command. Fleet, return fire. Across 20,000 human warships, colossal magnetic cannons discharged simultaneously. The sound could not travel through space. Yet every witness later swore they heard thunder. Brilliant streams of blue-white energy crossed millions of kilometers in seconds. The first Dominion battleship simply disappeared. The second split in half. The third erupted into a miniature sun. Within 30 seconds, over 400 Dominion capital ships had been destroyed. Panic exploded across enemy communications. This cannot be happening. They're breaking our lines. Our shields are collapsing instantly. Varkon gripped his command throne. No! He had conquered hundreds of civilizations. He had crushed ancient empires. He had never witnessed a fleet this powerful. Never. As explosions consumed the battlefield, one terrifying realization spread through every Dominion officer. They had not invaded humanity. They had awakened it. The battle that was supposed to last minutes had already become the greatest military disaster in galactic history. Dominion fleets were falling apart. Entire formations that had remained undefeated for thousands of years were being erased in seconds. Explosions illuminated the darkness as massive warships, once symbols of absolute power, broke apart like glass under humanity's relentless assault. Inside the Dominion flagship, alarms screamed from every console. Shield integrity at 23%. 7th Fleet destroyed. We've lost communication with the 12th and 15th Armadas. Commander Varkon slammed his fist against the command console. Impossible. No fleet can defeat the Dominion. A frightened tactical officer looked up. Sir. They already are. Silence filled the bridge. For the first time in his military career, Varkon felt something he had never experienced before. Far behind the battle lines, Athena monitored millions of calculations every second. Enemy movements, weapon trajectories, shield frequencies. Every Dominion command signal was analyzed before it was even completed. Human ships fought as if they shared one mind. Whenever the Dominion changed tactics, humanity had already adapted. General Marcus Kane watched the tactical display from Lunar Command. They're learning too slowly. Admiral Ross nodded. They've spent 20,000 years fighting weaker enemies. They've never faced an opponent who prepared for every possibility. President Amelia Hayes remained focused. Our objective? Not revenge. End the war. Realizing defeat was approaching, Commander Varkon made one final decision. If we cannot conquer Earth, destroy the planet. Every surviving Dominion supercarrier redirected its planet-killer weapons toward Earth. Thousands of energy cores began charging. Across the solar system, warning sirens activated. The countdown to planetary bombardment had begun. 5 minutes. 4, 3. Millions of civilians watched the skies. Parents held their children close. Some prayed. Others simply waited. The stars disappeared. Not because of darkness. Because something enormous had arrived. A shadow larger than Earth's moon emerged from hyperspace directly between the planet and the Dominion fleet. Gasps echoed across every command center. It wasn't a battleship. It was a fortress. The largest warship ever built by human hands. Nearly 300 kilometers long. Its gleaming white armor reflected the sun like a second sunrise. Along its sides rested weapons so massive that Dominion computers couldn't classify them. Athena spoke calmly. Strategic Command Vessel. HFS Titan. Primary Defense Systems Online. Commander Varkon stared in disbelief. No. Humanity couldn't have built this. One of his scientists whispered. They didn't. They've been building it for centuries. The Titan's shield expanded around Earth like a glowing sphere. Seconds later, thousands of Dominion planet-killer beams fired simultaneously. The solar system disappeared inside a blinding explosion. Every civilization watching the battle believed Earth was gone. When the light finally faded, the blue shield remained untouched. Earth was still there. Not a single city had been damaged. The entire Dominion attack had failed. Athena's voice echoed across every battlefield. Threat neutralized. Permission to conclude engagement. President Hayes answered with only 3 words. End it. The Titan's main weapons slowly aligned with the Dominion command fleet. Energy gathered inside a colossal cannon stretching through the ship's entire core. Every sensor across the galaxy detected the impossible power surge. Dominion officers screamed. Retreat. Emergency hyperspace jump. It's too late. A single beam of brilliant white light erupted across space. It pierced the Dominion flagship. then continued onward. Battleship after battleship vanished inside the unstoppable blast. The beams stretched for millions of kilometers, cutting through the heart of the Dominion Armada. When it finally faded, the Supreme Galactic Dominion fleet no longer existed. Commander Varkan's flagship drifted silently through space, broken beyond repair. Watching the wreckage around him, he finally understood the truth. The Dominion had declared war expecting humanity to surrender. Instead, they had signed the death warrant of the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. Silence. For several long moments, the battlefield remained completely still. Where the Supreme Galactic Dominion's unstoppable armada had once stretched across the stars, only shattered wreckage remained. Burning fragments of once mighty warships drifted through space, their fading engines flickering like dying embers. Across thousands of star systems, billions watched the live transmission in stunned disbelief. The impossible had happened. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for 20,000 years had fallen, in a single battle. Inside the ruined Dominion flagship, Commander Varkan sat motionless. His command bridge was dark, filled with smoke and emergency lights. Most of his officers were gone, and those who remained stared silently at their dead consoles. "We've lost contact with every fleet," an officer whispered. "Our colonies?" No response. "The Senate?" "Destroyed." Varkan lowered his head. The empire he had devoted his life to protecting no longer existed. Not because humanity sought conquest, but because the Dominion had forced humanity to fight. Aboard the HFS Titan, President Amelia Hayes stood beside Athena, watching the battlefield through the massive observation deck. General Marcus Kane finally broke the silence. "The war is over." Admiral Elena Ross nodded. "Our fleets report no organized enemy resistance." Athena processed billions of signals before speaking. 73 civilizations are requesting immediate communication. They fear humanity. Hayes sighed softly. They should not. She looked toward the endless stars. For centuries, we prepared for the day someone would come to destroy us. We never prepared to rule them. Within hours, representatives from every surviving civilization gathered through a galaxy-wide quantum conference. Some were terrified. Others were ashamed for refusing to help Earth. Many expected humanity to announce a new galactic empire. Instead, President Hayes appeared wearing a simple Earth uniform, with no crown, no decorations, and no symbols of conquest. Her voice was calm. "People of the galaxy, we did not choose this war. We warned no one because we hoped our preparations would never be needed. The Dominion believed fear created peace. They were wrong." She paused, allowing every world to hear her next words. "True peace is built through trust, not intimidation. If humanity wanted conquest, we could begin today. No fleet remains powerful enough to stop us." The delegates lowered their heads. Everyone knew she was right. But that is not who we are. Humanity's fleets would return home. No worlds would be occupied. No resources would be taken. No revenge would be carried out against former Dominion citizens. Instead, Earth offered food, medical aid, engineers, and reconstruction ships to planets devastated by the war. The galaxy expected an emperor. Instead, they found neighbors. Months later, the Galactic Council was rebuilt. This time, every civilization, large or small, received an equal voice. There would never again be one empire above all others. At the entrance to the new council chamber stood a single monument. Not of a weapon, not of a victory, but of an outstretched human hand. Beneath it were engraved the words, "Strength exists to protect peace, not to destroy freedom." Years passed, and children across the galaxy studied the story of the Dominion's fall. Not as the tale of humanity's greatest victory, but as a warning. Never mistake kindness for weakness. Never believe peace means unprepared. And above all, never declare war on a species that spent centuries preparing to ensure it would never lose its home again. Because on the day the galaxy declared war on humanity, it wasn't Earth that disappeared. It was the greatest empire the stars had ever known.